The cosmic dance of the stars has always held secrets about our deepest selves, revealing patterns that define our journey through life. Among these celestial blueprints, Capricorn stands as perhaps the most misunderstood sign of all, the lone mountain goat, climbing steadily toward heights others can barely comprehend. There's something truly fascinating about Capricorn energy that sets it apart from the rest of the zodiac. That quiet determination, that unwavering focus, that ability to pursue goals with relentless precision while the world spins chaotically around them. Have you ever wondered how they maintain such composure? The answer lies partially hidden in their profound relationship with solitude. Today, on Secret of the Zodiac, we're peeling back the veil on one of Capricorn's most defining yet least discussed traits, their deep, almost sacred appreciation for being alone. This isn't about isolation or antisocial tendencies as many mistakenly believe. No, this is about something far more powerful, far more intentional. The Capricorn's love for solitude isn't a flaw or weakness. It's actually one of their greatest strengths, a secret weapon in their arsenal that fuels their remarkable achievements. While other signs might feel depleted when separated from social connection, Capricorns have mastered the art of self-sufficiency in a way that borders on magical. They've discovered something that many of us spend lifetimes searching for, the ability to be completely at peace in their own company. Think about the symbolism of the mountain goat itself, scaling rocky cliffs alone, navigating treacherous terrain with sure-footed confidence, always moving upward despite the absence of a herd. This isn't random cosmic imagery. It's the perfect embodiment of Capricorn energy. They understand instinctively that certain heights can only be reached through solitary effort. What makes this exploration particularly valuable is understanding that Capricorn's preference for solitude isn't about avoiding others. It's about honoring their own natural rhythms and needs. In a world that increasingly values constant connectivity and collaboration, Capricorns remind us of the forgotten power of purposeful aloneness. They've preserved an ancient wisdom that many of us have lost touch with in our hyper-connected age. For those of you watching who identify with Capricorn energy, whether it's your sun sign, rising, moon, or just an influence in your chart, this video will feel like coming home. Finally, someone understands why you crave that sacred space of solitude. And for those who love a Capricorn, this will offer invaluable insight into why they sometimes seem to disappear into their own world. The insights we're about to share come from deep astrological study, psychological understanding, and countless conversations with Capricorns who have shared their experiences. These aren't superficial traits found in horoscope columns. These are the profound truths that define the Capricorn experience at its core. Before we dive into these 12 illuminating reasons, take a moment to subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac if you haven't already. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you these deeper astrological insights that go far beyond surface-level sun sign descriptions. Hit that like button too. It helps more people discover this content and builds our cosmic community. Your engagement allows us to continue creating these in-depth explorations of the zodiac's hidden dimensions. As we journey through the Capricorn psyche together, you'll gain a new appreciation for how this earth sign navigates the world. You might even recognize aspects of yourself you never fully understood before. The beauty of astrology lies in this mirror it holds up to our nature, reflecting back parts of ourselves we couldn't otherwise see clearly. Now let's begin our exploration with the first 3 fundamental reasons why Capricorns truly treasure their alone time. Reasons that reveal how their strategic minds operate at their highest potential when given the space to flourish without interruption. Reason number 1, their ambitious minds require uninterrupted focus time to craft their next strategic master plan. In the sacred silence of solitude, a Capricorn's mind unfolds like an intricate origami creation, deliberate, methodical, and ultimately transformative. This isn't merely about enjoying quiet time. It's about creating the precise conditions needed for their unique cognitive architecture to function at its highest capacity. The Capricorn brain operates like a sophisticated chess computer, constantly calculating moves and counter-moves, visualizing potential futures that stretch years beyond where others typically look. This long-range vision requires a special kind of mental space that can only be found in solitude. When a Capricorn sits alone in their carefully curated environment, perhaps a minimalist home office with everything arranged just so, or a corner nook in a quiet library, they aren't simply working. They're engaging in a form of mental alchemy that transforms raw information into gold standard strategies. Their minds process data differently when free from the cognitive static that accompanies social interaction. Each uninterrupted hour allows them to dive deeper into complex problems, surfacing with solutions that others would miss entirely. Consider how a Capricorn approaches their career trajectory. While others might network frantically at industry events, a Capricorn often prefers to retreat to their personal sanctuary to map out their 5-year plan with military precision. They're not being antisocial, they're being strategically selective with their mental resources. They instinctively understand that brilliant strategies rarely emerge from fragmented attention. Their ambitious visions require continuous, unbroken concentration, a scarce resource in our notification-saturated world that they fiercely protect through purposeful solitude. Reason number 2, they find tremendous satisfaction in silent productivity that others simply cannot comprehend. There exists a particular state of flow that Capricorns access when working alone that delivers a satisfaction so profound it borders on the spiritual. This isn't the fleeting dopamine hit of social validation. It's a deeper, more sustained pleasure that comes from witnessing their own capabilities fully expressed without dilution or compromise. When a Capricorn completes a complex project in solitude, the sense of accomplishment resonates at a frequency that social celebrations simply cannot match. The Capricorn's relationship with productivity is intimate and personal. They don't need an audience to validate their efforts. The work itself speaks to them in a language only they fully understand. There's something almost sacred in how they approach their tasks, methodical, reverent, and completely present. While many signs derive energy and motivation from external feedback, Capricorns have developed an internal compass so finely calibrated that outside opinions often feel like interference rather than enhancement. This silent productivity creates a feedback loop that reinforces their love of solitude. The more they accomplish alone, the more they associate being alone with accomplishment, until solitude becomes not just a preference, but a prerequisite for their most meaningful work. They've learned through experience that their highest achievements often emerge from these private hours of focused effort. It's not that they can't work well with others. Many Capricorns are excellent leaders and collaborators when necessary, but they recognize that certain kinds of deep work demand solitary conditions. Reason number 3, solitude offers the perfect environment for them to refine their skills without judgment or criticism. The path to mastery is rarely a straight line, and no one understands this better than a Capricorn. In the privacy of solitude, they can experiment, fail, adjust, and try again without the weight of others' expectations or judgments influencing their process. This freedom to fail privately is essential to how Capricorns develop their formidable skills. They instinctively create learning environments where perfectionistic tendencies can be productive rather than paralyzing. A Capricorn practicing a new skill alone might repeat the same action hundreds of times, making minute adjustments with each iteration. They approach skill development with the patience of a master craftsman, understanding that excellence emerges from countless hours of deliberate practice. This methodical approach requires a level of focus and freedom from distraction that only solitude can provide. Without an audience, they can concentrate entirely on the work itself rather than managing others' perceptions of their abilities. There's also something deeply vulnerable about the learning process that resonates with Capricorn's need for emotional security. By choosing to refine their skills in private, they protect their growth from premature exposure. They intuitively understand that skills like fine wine or aged cheese require time in controlled conditions before they're ready to be shared with the world. This isn't about insecurity. It's about respecting the natural development cycle of expertise and protecting their craft during its most formative stages. This solitary refinement applies to everything from technical skills to leadership abilities. A Capricorn might spend hours alone analyzing their communication style, reviewing past interactions, and practicing difficult conversations before ever stepping into a boardroom. This behind-the-scenes preparation is part of what makes them appear so naturally composed and competent to others. What looks like effortless mastery to outsiders is actually the result of countless private hours dedicated to improvement. These first three reasons reveal a fundamental truth about the Capricorn relationship with solitude. It's not an escape from the world, but rather a strategic approach to engaging with it more effectively. Their love of being alone isn't about avoidance, it's about optimization. They've discovered through experience that certain kinds of mental work flourish under specific conditions, and they're willing to create those conditions even when it means declining social invitations or stepping away from group activities. For a Capricorn, solitude isn't just a preference, it's a performance-enhancing practice that allows them to show up in the world as their most capable, prepared, and effective selves. They don't choose to be alone because they dislike people. They choose it because they respect their own process and understand what environments allow their unique gifts to flourish most fully. Reason number 4, alone time allows them to maintain their carefully constructed emotional walls without constant repair. Beneath the composed exterior of every Capricorn lies an intricate emotional architecture, a fortress built not from stone and mortar, but from carefully calibrated boundaries and thoughtfully designed defenses. This isn't about being cold or distant, as they're often mischaracterized. It's about being intentional with emotional energy in a way few other signs truly comprehend. In solitude, these defenses don't need to be actively maintained. They can simply exist without challenge or compromise. The Capricorn's emotional fortress isn't built from fear, but from wisdom. They've learned through life's harsher lessons that emotional discernment is as valuable a skill as any technical expertise they might develop, like medieval castle builders who understood that different sections of wall required different thicknesses depending on the terrain. Capricorns have developed nuanced emotional boundaries tailored to specific relationships and circumstances. This sophisticated system requires regular maintenance, work that happens most efficiently in solitude. When alone, a Capricorn can perform essential emotional inventory without external pressure. They can ask themselves honest questions. Which relationships are depleting rather than nourishing? Where have boundaries been crossed? What emotional patterns are no longer serving their growth? This isn't overthinking. It's preventative maintenance for their emotional well-being. Just as they approach their career with strategic foresight, they approach their emotional life with deliberate care, understanding that small adjustments now prevent catastrophic collapses later. For many Capricorns, this emotional recalibration becomes a sacred ritual, perhaps curled up with a journal by a window overlooking nature, or during a solitary drive with nothing but their thoughts and favorite music. These private moments aren't about hiding. They're about hearing their own emotional truth clearly, without the static of others' expectations or needs interfering with the signal. Reason number 5, their natural self-discipline thrives in spaces where others' impulsivity can't derail their well-established routine. The Capricorn approach to life is akin to a master composer creating a symphony. Every element precisely placed, each rhythm and tempo shift deliberately chosen for maximum impact. Their routines aren't mere habits. They're carefully engineered systems designed to move them incrementally toward their loftiest goals. In solitude, these intricate systems can operate without the disruption of external chaos or the well-meaning but ultimately derailing influence of more spontaneous personalities. A Capricorn's morning routine might be timed to the minute, specific moments for meditation, exercise, strategic planning, and nutritional fueling, all sequenced for optimal performance. This isn't rigidity for its own sake, but rather a profound understanding that how they begin each day sets the trajectory for everything that follows. When this carefully calibrated sequence is interrupted by others' more impulsive approaches to time, it creates not just annoyance, but a genuine disorientation that can throw off their entire day. In solitude, their disciplined nature finds its purest expression. They can follow their internal rhythms without explanation or apology, allowing that natural self-regulation to guide them through their tasks with efficiency that borders on artistic. There's a flow state that Capricorns access through disciplined routine that feels almost transcendent, a state more easily achieved when they don't need to accommodate others' more spontaneous impulses. What many mistake for inflexibility is actually Capricorn's profound respect for process. They understand intuitively what science has now confirmed, that willpower is a finite resource, and well-designed routines conserve this precious mental energy for truly important decisions. By creating environments where their routines can unfold without disruption, they're not being antisocial. They're being strategically selective about how they allocate their most valuable resources. Reason number 6, they secretly recharge their mental batteries through quiet reflection, not social interaction. Perhaps one of the most fundamental misunderstandings about Capricorn energy is the assumption that they need the same kinds of social interaction that other signs crave. The truth is far more nuanced. While Capricorns value meaningful connection, their energy restoration system operates differently from many others in the zodiac. Where a Leo might recharge through performing for an appreciative audience, or a Gemini through animated conversation, a Capricorn replenishes their vital force through the sacred space of reflective solitude. Imagine energy as water in a vessel. For some signs, that vessel fills through external sources, conversations, shared experiences, and social engagement. But for Capricorns, the vessel primarily fills from an internal wellspring that flows most freely in quiet, contemplative settings. This isn't about introversion versus extroversion in the conventional sense. It's about understanding their unique energetic ecosystem and honoring its natural processes. During periods of quiet reflection, something remarkable happens in the Capricorn psyche. The mental chatter that accumulates through daily interactions gradually settles like sediment in a glass of water, revealing a clarity that allows them to access deeper insights about themselves and their past. This clarity isn't just psychologically refreshing, it's strategically essential, allowing them to course correct with precision rather than reacting to circumstances as they arise. There's a meditative quality to how Capricorns approach their alone time. Whether physically still in formal contemplation or engaged in solitary activities like gardening, hiking, or creating art, they enter a state where the boundary between doing and being dissolves. In this space, they process experiences on multiple levels simultaneously: intellectual, emotional, and even spiritual, integrating lessons that might otherwise remain fragmented in the rush of daily life. What makes this aspect of Capricorn nature so fascinating is how it contradicts our culture's often extroverted assumptions about energy and connection. Many Capricorns report feeling more deeply connected to themselves, others, and even the universe after periods of solitude, not despite their alone time, but because of it. They emerge from these reflective intervals with greater presence and capacity for meaningful engagement, having replenished something essential that can only be restored in the absence of external demands. These three aspects of Capricorn's emotional relationship with solitude reveal something profound about their approach to life. They understand that emotional sustainability requires as much strategic planning as financial or career sustainability. Their choice to spend time alone isn't a retreat from connection, but rather a sophisticated approach to making their connections more meaningful and authentic when they do engage. For Capricorns, emotional resilience isn't built through constant exposure, but through thoughtful integration. Like athletes who understand that recovery is as important as training for peak performance, Capricorns recognize that emotional processing requires dedicated space that can only be found in the quiet sanctuary of solitude. Their emotional fortress isn't about keeping others out. It's about creating a stable foundation from which they can engage with the world from a place of genuine strength and clarity. Reason number 7, their critical inner voice needs space to analyze past decisions without external opinions clouding judgment. Beneath the pragmatic exterior of every Capricorn lies the soul of a philosopher, not the ivory tower academic detached from reality, but the grounded sage who extracts wisdom from lived experience. Central to this philosophical nature is their remarkable capacity for honest self-assessment, a skill that flourishes only in the undisturbed sanctuary of solitude. When a Capricorn retreats from the world, they're often engaging in a profound process of internal reckoning that requires absolute clarity that becomes impossible when others' perspectives, however well-intentioned, enter the equation. This analytical retrospection isn't casual reflection. It's a disciplined practice, more akin to a master craftsman inspecting their work with exacting standards. A Capricorn alone with their thoughts might mentally revisit a business decision made months earlier, examining it from every conceivable angle, the information available at the time, the alternatives not pursued, the unexpected outcomes, the lessons embedded in both successes and setbacks. This isn't self-criticism in the destructive sense, but rather a sophisticated learning mechanism that transforms experience into expertise. What makes this process so distinctly Capricornian is how they strip away emotional attachments to their decisions without losing sight of the emotions that influenced them. They can simultaneously acknowledge that anxiety might have caused them to act conservatively while evaluating whether that conservatism served them well. A remarkable feat of emotional intelligence that requires both distance and intimacy with their own psyche. This paradoxical perspective becomes nearly impossible to maintain when others interject their interpretations, however accurate they might be. In solitude, the Capricorn's internal analyst can speak with perfect honesty, unconcerned with how truths might land, or whether acknowledgments of missteps might diminish others' perceptions of their competence. This raw honesty with self becomes the foundation of their tremendous personal growth over time, a growth that often accelerates in midlife when many other signs find themselves plateauing. Their capacity for ruthless self-assessment, cultivated in countless hours of solitary reflection, becomes a superpower that drives continuous evolution long after others have settled comfortably into their established patterns. Reason number 8, they view solitude as an investment in self-improvement rather than a sacrifice of social connection. The Capricorn relationship with time differs fundamentally from most other signs, and nowhere is this more evident than in how they conceptualize solitude. Where others might experience alone time as an emptiness to be filled or a temporary state to be endured, Capricorns approach it as an investment vehicle for their most valuable resource, themselves. This isn't self-absorption, but rather a profound understanding that all they will ever truly possess is their own capacity, and expanding that capacity requires dedicated, uninterrupted focus. A Capricorn declining a social invitation isn't rejecting connection. They're making a conscious allocation of their time toward what they've determined will yield greater long-term returns. They might spend an evening mastering a new skill, studying an emerging industry trend, or deepening their understanding of a complex subject. Activities that others might view as work, but that Capricorns experience as the most meaningful form of self-investment. This isn't workaholism disguised as personal development. It's a genuine recognition that growth often happens in solitude. What distinguishes this Capricornian approach is how strategically they view these solitary investments. They rarely choose random self-improvement activities based on passing interests or current trends. Instead, they thoughtfully select development areas that compound over time, building toward specific visions they hold for their future selves. A Capricorn might spend 6 months in their spare time mastering a programming language, not because they enjoy coding itself, but because they've identified a future inflection point where this skill will create exponential rather than incremental returns in their chosen field. This investment mentality extends beyond practical skills to philosophical and emotional development as well. A Capricorn might dedicate significant solitary time to developing greater emotional intelligence, not merely for personal satisfaction, but because they recognize how this capacity will enhance every relationship and opportunity in their future. The compound interest principle that governs their financial decisions applies equally to how they invest their solitary hours. Patient accumulation leading to extraordinary results that cannot be achieved through more impulsive approaches. Reason number 9. Their melancholic nature sometimes needs private moments to process deeper thoughts about life's purpose and meaning. Perhaps the least understood aspect of Capricorn psychology is the profound existential dimension that colors their experience. Beneath the achievement-oriented exterior lies a soul deeply attuned to life's transience and the fundamental questions of meaning that have occupied philosophers throughout history. This melancholic temperament, not depression in the clinical sense, but rather a philosophical seriousness about existence, requires regular solitary contemplation to process and integrate. When alone, a Capricorn often finds themselves naturally drawn toward the deeper currents of thought that daily busyness otherwise obscures. They might contemplate their legacy beyond material achievements, questioning whether their life's work aligns with their deeper values. They might reflect on relationships, considering not just their functional aspects, but their meaning in the broader narrative of their life. These existential inquiries aren't indulgent overthinking, but essential calibration points that ensure their practical efforts remain connected to something more enduring than success, as conventionally defined. This contemplative dimension reveals why Capricorns are often drawn to nature when seeking solitude. Something about natural settings, the ancient rhythm of tides, the patient growth of trees, the immensity of mountain landscapes resonates with their innate sense of temporal perspective. A Capricorn hiking alone through forest trails isn't merely exercising or escaping daily pressures. They're engaged in a form of moving meditation where external landscapes mirror internal territories they're exploring. These natural settings provide both catalyst and container for the existential questions they're processing. What's particularly poignant about this aspect of Capricorn solitude is how it contradicts popular misconceptions about their materialistic tendencies. The truth is far more nuanced. Their drive for tangible achievement often coexists with a profound awareness of impermanence that would paralyze less resilient souls. In solitude, they reconcile these seemingly contradictory impulses, building legacies while acknowledging their ultimate transience, creating security while recognizing life's fundamental uncertainty. This integration of opposites represents some of their most profound inner work that can only happen in the contemplative space that solitude provides. These 3 philosophical dimensions of Capricorn's relationship with solitude reveal something essential about their nature. Beneath their practical exterior lies a depth of existential awareness that requires regular tending. Their choice to spend time alone isn't mere preference but necessary integration of their multi-dimensional experience of life, the practical and the philosophical, the material and the meaningful, the temporary and the timeless. For Capricorns, solitude creates the essential conditions for maintaining philosophical coherence in a world that often fragments attention and compartmentalizes existence. Their time alone allows them to continually reweave the various threads of their experience into a tapestry that makes holistic sense, ensuring that their external achievements remain connected to internal values and that their practical choices reflect their deeper understanding of what gives life meaning. Reason number 10. They prefer the company of their well-organized thoughts to the chaos of group conversations, where ideas often get lost or diluted. Within every Capricorn exists a mental architecture of extraordinary precision, thoughts arranged not in the haphazard manner of many signs, but in elegant hierarchical structures that connect immediate concerns to long-term visions. This internal organization isn't merely a preference, it's a fundamental operating system that allows them to maintain clarity amidst life's inevitable complexities. When a Capricorn retreats into solitude, they're often seeking refuge not from people themselves, but from the cognitive dissonance that arises when their organized internal landscape collides with the more chaotic thought patterns typical of group dynamics. Picture a Capricorn in a brainstorming session where conversations ricochet unpredictably between topics, leaving threads dangling and connections unmade. While others might find this stimulating, for a Capricorn it creates a particular kind of mental friction, not because they can't follow multiple conversational paths, but because they instinctively perceive the structural weaknesses in such scattered approaches. They see how certain critical connections are missed, how promising ideas are abandoned before reaching fruition, how the collective conversation often settles on what's merely adequate rather than what's truly excellent. In the sanctuary of solitude, their thoughts can unfold according to their natural architecture, one idea flowing logically to the next, each consideration given its proper weight, each possibility explored to its logical conclusion. This isn't rigid thinking, but rather a form of mental craftsmanship, where ideas are not merely generated but refined, tested against reality, and integrated into coherent frameworks. There's a satisfaction in this process that rivals any social pleasure, the deep contentment of watching order emerge from complexity, clarity from confusion. What's particularly fascinating about this aspect of Capricorn psychology is how it manifests in their communication style. When they do share their thoughts after periods of solitary reflection, there's often a crystalline quality to their expression, ideas presented not as tentative explorations, but as carefully considered positions. This isn't arrogance, but rather the natural outcome of having already subjected their thinking to rigorous internal scrutiny. They offer not raw materials, but finished craftsmanship, the product of solitary hours spent in the workshop of their minds. Reason number 11. Their independent spirit feels most authentic when they're answering only to their own high standards, not compromising to meet others' expectations. At the core of every Capricorn lies a profound commitment to integrity that borders on the sacred. This isn't merely about honesty in the conventional sense, but about a deeper alignment between their actions and their innermost values, values often more demanding than any external authority might impose. In solitude, they find the rare freedom to move through the world guided solely by this internal compass, unconstrained by the inevitable compromises that social dynamics require. A Capricorn, working alone on a project, experiences a particular kind of liberation that has nothing to do with avoiding criticism and everything to do with answering to standards that may be invisible to others. They might revise a presentation 30 times, not because anyone else would notice the subtle improvements, but because something within them recognizes the gap between what's acceptable and what's excellent. They might spend hours perfecting aspects of their work that will never be directly acknowledged, because their satisfaction comes not from external validation, but from knowing they've met their own exacting criteria. This independent standard setting reveals something essential about the Capricorn spirit that's often misunderstood. Their perfectionism isn't driven primarily by fear of judgment, but by a positive vision of excellence that they hold with remarkable clarity. In solitude, this vision can guide their efforts without the dilution that inevitably occurs when multiple perspectives must be accommodated. They can pursue their unique conception of quality without the energy-draining work of justifying choices that make perfect sense within their internal value system, but might seem unnecessary or excessive to others. What makes this independence particularly powerful is how it connects to their authentic self-expression. When a Capricorn honors their internal standards without compromise, they're not merely producing better work, they're experiencing a profound alignment between their actions and their deepest values. This alignment generates a quiet confidence that no external validation can provide, a sense of integrity that becomes a foundation for genuine self-respect. In a world that increasingly pressures individuals to conform to collective norms, this capacity for independent judgment becomes not just personally satisfying, but culturally essential. Reason number 12. They secretly enjoy building their empire behind the scenes before revealing their accomplishments to the world. Perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of Capricorn's love for solitude is its connection to their unique relationship with achievement and recognition. Unlike signs that thrive on continuous external feedback, Capricorns possess a remarkable capacity for delayed gratification that extends to how they receive acknowledgement for their efforts. They don't merely tolerate working in obscurity, they actively prefer it during crucial developmental phases, understanding intuitively that premature exposure often diminishes rather than enhances creative work. This preference for behind-the-scenes development isn't about insecurity, but strategic timing. A Capricorn building a business might work for years in relative seclusion, perfecting their offering before seeking significant visibility. An artist with Capricorn influences might create dozens of works seen by no one while refining their technique and vision. This isn't hiding, it's incubating, allowing ideas and capabilities to develop fully before subjecting them to the potentially distorting influence of external opinions, however well-intentioned. What makes this approach so distinctly Capricornian is the patience it requires, a patience increasingly rare in our culture of instant sharing and continuous visibility. They understand something that many have forgotten, that the most enduring works, whether businesses, artistic creations, or personal transformations, often require extended periods of development, protected from premature judgment or exposure. Their capacity to find fulfillment in this private process, without the dopamine hits of immediate recognition, represents a form of psychological maturity that serves them extraordinarily well in long-term endeavors. This behind-the-scenes building connects to something deeper in the Capricorn psyche, their fundamental understanding that true power rarely announces itself prematurely. Like the mountain goat that moves steadily upward, with sure-footed determination rather than showy leaps, they prefer the substance of actual progress to the appearance of success. Their satisfaction comes not primarily from being seen as accomplished, but from knowing the solid foundation beneath their achievements, a foundation best built in the focused concentration that solitude provides. These final three dimensions of Capricorn's relationship with solitude reveal the essence of their independent nature. They've developed an internal ecosystem so rich and self-sustaining that external validation, while appreciated, becomes supplementary rather than essential to their sense of purpose and direction. Their time alone isn't about isolation from others, but connection to themselves, to the clear voice of their own wisdom that can be heard only when external noise subsides. For Capricorns, solitude represents not a retreat from engagement, but a different kind of engagement, with their own highest potential, with work that matters deeply to them, with values that transcend current trends or conventional expectations. Their love of being alone isn't a deficiency to be overcome, but a capacity to be honored, one that allows them to make contributions of unusual depth and durability in whatever domains they choose to enter. Throughout our cosmic journey into the Capricorn psyche, we've uncovered 12 profound dimensions of their relationship with solitude, each revealing why this earth sign not only accepts, but actively treasures their time alone. We've seen how their strategic minds flourish in the uninterrupted focus that solitude provides, allowing them to craft masterful plans while experiencing a satisfaction in silent productivity that many other signs struggle to comprehend. We've explored how this private space enables them to refine their skills with methodical precision, protected from premature judgment or criticism. Delving deeper, we discovered the emotional architecture that Capricorns maintain through intentional alone time, the carefully constructed boundaries that aren't walls of separation, but sophisticated systems of discernment. We witnessed how their disciplined nature thrives when freed from the well-meaning but ultimately disruptive influence of more spontaneous personalities. Perhaps most surprisingly, we learned that contrary to common misconception, Capricorns actually recharge through quiet reflection rather than social interaction, their energy restored not by external stimulation, but by internal contemplation. Our exploration then revealed the philosophical depths that animate the Capricorn spirit, how their critical inner voice requires space for honest self-assessment without external opinions clouding their judgment. We saw how they approach solitude not as a sacrifice, but as a strategic investment in their own development, recognizing the compound returns that thoughtful self-improvement yields over time. We acknowledged the melancholic undercurrent that flows through their experience, not as a burden, but as a capacity for existential depth that requires private processing. Finally, we illuminated the independent spirit that defines Capricorn at its core, their preference for well-organized thoughts over the scattered patterns of group conversation, their commitment to internal standards of excellence that exceed external expectations, and their strategic patience in building behind the scenes before revealing their accomplishments to the world. What emerges from this exploration isn't merely a collection of personality traits, but a coherent philosophy of life, one that recognizes the essential role of solitude in developing depth, authenticity, and lasting impact. The Capricorn way reminds us all that in a culture obsessed with constant connectivity, there remains profound value in the capacity to be alone without being lonely, to find fulfillment in one's own company, to pursue excellence without requiring continuous validation. If you found recognition in these insights, whether as a Capricorn yourself, or as someone who loves, works with, or seeks to understand this fascinating sign, we invite you to deepen your connection with Secret of the Zodiac. Our channel is dedicated to illuminating the hidden dimensions of astrological wisdom that mainstream horoscopes rarely touch, offering perspectives that honor the profound complexity of each sign rather than reducing them to simplistic stereotypes. Take a moment now to subscribe to our channel, ensuring you never miss our daily zodiac revelations. Each video offers this same level of depth and insight into different aspects of astrological wisdom, from exploring the shadow sides of each sign to illuminating the cosmic patterns that shape relationships, career paths, and personal growth. The subscribe button is your gateway to a community of fellow cosmic explorers who recognize that astrology, when approached with genuine depth, offers powerful tools for self-understanding and connection. We also invite you to explore our previous videos, particularly our deep dives into other Earth signs and how they complement or challenge Capricorn energy. The connections between these videos create a comprehensive map of astrological wisdom that becomes increasingly valuable as you explore more of our content. If today's exploration resonated with your experience, please let us know by leaving a like on this video. This simple action helps others discover this content, while showing us which topics most deeply connect with our community. Even more valuable are your comments, whether sharing how these Capricorn traits manifest in your life, adding perspectives we might have missed, or requesting future topics you'd like us to explore. The comment section becomes a place where our collective wisdom expands beyond what any single video could contain. For those who find particular value in our work, we've enabled Super Thanks as a way to support the considerable research and production that goes into creating daily, in-depth astrological content. Your contributions directly fund the costs associated with maintaining this channel and allow us to continue bringing you these cosmic insights without compromise. Every Super Thanks, regardless of amount, makes a tangible difference in our ability to sustain and expand this astrological journey we're taking together. Until our stars align again in tomorrow's exploration, may you find wisdom in both connection and solitude, balance in both achievement and reflection, and authenticity in honoring your own cosmic blueprint, whether it includes Capricorn influences or not. The secrets of the zodiac await your continued discovery.